Good evening. Welcome to In the Mode. My name is Ron Curtis, and our interview guest tonight is none other than Adrian Belew, lead vocalist and guitarist for King Crimson. Welcome.
Hi,
We're really glad to have you on the show tonight. Before we get into the interview, you might wonder what happened to my partner Aaron. Well, Aaron is on an extended vacation in the Andromeda Galaxy, so he sends everybody his best, and we hope we'll have him back for the next show.
It's a long journey.
Certainly is. Speaking of long journeys, you're now in the midst of your, I believe, your second American tour with King Crimson.
Just about over, actually. It ends tomorrow night in Berkeley.
In Berkeley.
And then we shoot over to Portugal.
You're kidding.
We start a month's worth of dates with Roxy Music and Genesis and all over Europe.
You're going to be touring with those two bands?
At certain points.
Really?
And sometimes we'll be headlining ourselves.
Do you ever think that something like that would ever happen here? It seems that for some reason in this country when they have concerts, they very rarely will put two huge acts like that, specifically in that genre of music and more of an innovative style of music. They don't do that here. They wouldn't have, like in the 70s, Yes and Genesis play together, or Roxy Music and King Crimson play together, unless they were fledgling bands, you know. But I mean, they wouldn't do that in this country, it seems.
I just noticed a poster, though, for the Police and Talking Heads and the B-52s.
Oh, that's right, at the US Festival here.
That seems like a pretty healthy...
That's true. Well,
I spoiled that theory, didn't I?
That'll be all for tonight, folks. No. I had the opportunity to see the show last night, and it was absolutely incredible. It seems that you've developed into a band of the 80s. You seem to have gotten away from basically what Crimson was and represented to the 70s. Let me quote you here on the air from a interview you did with Trouser Press recently. And you said, quote, "What I hope to accomplish eventually is to fit avant-garde sensibilities into pop forms so more people will enjoy them." Now, it seems that you've accomplished that somewhat in King Crimson, and judging by the audience response last night, they seem to appreciate it. Will this be your direction in the future? Do you really feel that music really needs a style of music that puts the two forms together as opposed to apart?
That's my personal feeling. That's what I'm always striving for. I don't know how the whole band feels. I think that's kind of the band's natural leaning toward avant-garde music, I think. But for me, when you add kind of good, strong melodies to that, then you have that combination. And I think maybe there are a lot of people who'd like to have that combination or who try for that. It doesn't seem very uncommon to me, but I sure like it when it happens.
If we were to go to your home and we were to look at your record collection, would we be surprised to what we'd see?
Yes, you would. You'd be very surprised. Most of my record collection is rather ancient. I mean, I have lots of Jimi Hendrix albums and Beatle albums. Most recently, I've taken to going to the public Champaign-Urbana library and bringing home records and listening to them and sorting through them. That's because I've been trying to listen to a lot of modern composers.
Such as?
Stravinsky, Eric Satie, Edgar Varese. And since it's such a bulk of material that I know so little about, I go to the library and I check these records out and bring them home.
Do you tape them?
No, I don't tape them. I don't even have a tape player. So that's what you would find most currently on my turntable at home, is a stack of library records.
So there isn't any, quote, new rock groups that particularly that you enjoy at all?
Most of the bands that I like that are new, I work with. I mean, I could sum it up in just a few bands. I like Talking Heads. I like King Crimson. I like the Police. I don't work with the Police. But, and then I tend to go off into a lot of various areas.
King Crimson is now half English and half American, when they were in the past an all-English band. And they had their start in the late 60s, early 70s as part of the progressive rock movement at that time. It's pretty much died out from the initial popularity that it had with Yes and Close to the Edge and things like that in the mid-70s. It would appear that it's slowly making a comeback. Groups like Asia regrouped English musicians from bands from the past. Do you find any enjoyment listening to, let's say, the new direction of Genesis, for example, or what Asia is doing as far as their
Well, I'm
musical
very
ideas?
unaware of those two bands, actually. I tend to focus in on whatever it is we're doing, and that takes up so much of my time and creativity and attention. I don't listen to a lot of other bands at this point, kind of specifically for that reason. I don't really want to cloud my head with a lot of other people's influences, because I'm too easily influenced anyway. I don't know much about the new directions of those bands, and I don't classify King Crimson with those bands.
No, you really couldn't. No, I would absolutely say not. Having seen you last night, there are leagues, miles, light years between what you guys are doing and what so-called FM staple rock acts are doing.
Well, I mean, they both have their validity, and I'm not here to put either one of them down or place either one above the other.
It's just different.
Yeah, it's just different, right? Different tastes. And I guess if King Crimson has a main problem at this point, it's being able to kind of educate an audience to what we're doing now, and that seems to be a little hard to do with radio airplay. Radio airplay is tough these days because of economics.
You are getting
some
some
like
here.
Asia, I mean, is obviously a little easier to understand what they're doing. It's not quite as esoteric, maybe.
It's more
as
mainstream,
what
is
we're
what
doing.
you're trying to
say.
say.
Yeah, more mainstream. There you go.
Right.
Thanks. I don't know those terms very well.
I made that up, by the way.
It's a good term.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You have a new solo
2
album.
points.
2 points?
Yes, I do. I have
New
a new
solo album. It's called Lone
You
Rhino.
can't miss it. It's got me and a rhino standing in the field in Africa.
That's right.
Little white bird on his butt.
Great.
Rump, I mean.
Rump. Yeah, you can say that here. That'll be okay. It seems interesting that you'd put out that album approximately at the same time as the new King Crimson. Do you look at that as a musical outlet, a way to take ideas that you've had in your head that you may not think would be right for Crimson and decide to put out a solo album like that? Is it a culmination of your other experiences?
Well, it all kind of happened in reverse for me. Let's say at age 16 I start playing guitar specifically to write songs, not to be a guitarist. And at that point, and from that point on, you always, in the back of your mind, you're always saying, one of these days I'm going to make my own album. That's really what I'm here for.
Right.
In the meantime, though, I get picked to be in these other bands, which I could have never planned to be in. Frank Zappa discovers me, David Bowie hears me playing with Frank Zappa, Talking Heads hear me playing with David Bowie, Robert Fripp hears me playing with Talking Heads. It's like they all sort of run into each other, and they were all more or less accidental kind of occurrences. So